Okay, section 1.6e, continuing with anatomical terminology, specifically tic-tac-toe and quadrants, both of which have to do with the abdominopelvic cavity. So we'll look at tic-tac-toe first. So I call it tic-tac-toe because it looks like a tic-tac-toe board. In the middle, you've got the umbilical region. Above, you have the epigastric region, and below, the hypogastric region. The root word gastra has to do with the digestive tract. Hypo means under or below. Epi means above or on top of. So that's why if we have in the center square umbilical, this is the epigastric region and this is the hypogastric region. Both of those are located medially. Now, speaking of which, it is of the utmost importance that you figure out immediately the patient's right and the patient's left. This is obviously an anatomical position because we see the sternum here. So the patient is facing you. That means anything on this side of the diagram is the patient's right, and anything on this side of the diagram is the patient's left. Gotta get that straight. You have to get it from the onset. Okay, now let's take a look. So that means that these three regions here, right, 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 left, left, left. Okay, so here we have the diaphragm, and the diaphragm looks like it's actually up into the thoracic cavity, which it is. When you exhale, your diaphragm sits up pretty high up here. So you actually, it's at the point of maximum exhalation, you have abdominal organs up in what you would think would be the thoracic cavity. So anyhow, back to what we're doing here. If you put your finger on your umbilical region and you run, you make two fists, and you take those fists and you move them laterally, and then you move them posteriorly, and then you move them medially, you'll end up in the lumbar region of the lower back. So basically, if you take your finger, stick it right through your belly button, it will come out the back in the lumbar region. That is an easy way to remember these two abdominopelvic regions here, right lumbar and left lumbar. No, they don't have to do with your lower back, but they're at the same level as your lower back, okay? So, umbilical, epigastric, hypogastric, right lumbar, left lumbar. These two here are called the right and left hypochondriac regions. Hypo means below again. Chondra refers to cartilage. Well, there's cartilage that joins these ribs to the sternum. So the hypochondriac regions are just below the cartilage of the rib cage and the sternum. So right hypochondriac, left hypochondriac. And then lastly, we've got the right and left iliac regions. The reason they're called the iliac regions is because of the iliac crest. So the coxal region, when you put your hands on your hips, that's the coxal region. Well, what you're actually feeling here is a protrusion or a projection of your hips, of your pelvis actually, rather, not your hips, your pelvis. And it's called the iliac crest. So that's why this is the right iliac region and the left iliac region.